Hello, sisters. The Redstockings Manifesto, 1969. 1. After centuries of individual and preliminary political struggle, women are uniting to achieve their final liberation from male supremacy. Redstockings is dedicated to building this unity and winning our freedom. 2. Women are an oppressed class. Our oppression is total, affecting every facet of our lives. We are exploited as sex objects, breeders, domestic servants, and cheap labor. We are considered inferior beings whose only purpose is to enhance men's lives. Our humanity is denied. Our prescribed behavior is enforced by the threat of physical violence. Because we have lived so intimately with our oppressors, in isolation from each other, we have been kept from seeing our personal suffering as a political condition. This creates the illusion that a woman's relationship with her man is a matter of interplay between two unique personalities and can be worked out individually. In reality, every such relationship is a class relationship, and the conflicts between individual men and women are political conflicts that can only be solved collectively. 3. We identify the agents of our oppression as men. Male supremacy is the oldest, most basic form of domination. All other forms of exploitation and oppression, racism, capitalism, imperialism, etc., are extensions of male supremacy. Men dominate women, a few men dominate the rest. All power structures throughout history have been male dominated and male oriented. Men have controlled all political, economic, and cultural institutions and backed up this control with physical force. They have used their power to keep women in an inferior position. All men receive economic, sexual, and psychological benefits from male supremacy. All men have oppressed women. 4. Attempts have been made to shift the burden of responsibility from men to institutions or to women themselves. We condemn these arguments as evasions. Institutions alone do not oppress, they are merely tools of the oppressor. To blame institutions implies that men and women are equally victimized, obscures the fact that men benefit from the subordination of women, and gives men the excuse that they are forced to be oppressors. On the contrary, any man is free to renounce his superior position, provided that he is willing to be treated like a woman by other men. We also reject the idea that women consent to or are to blame for their own oppression. Women's submission is not the result of brainwashing, stupidity, or mental illness, but of continual daily pressure from men. We do not need to change ourselves, but to change men. The most slanderous evasion of all is that women can oppress men. The basis for this illusion is the isolation of individual relationships from their political context and the tendency of men to see any legitimate challenge to their privilege as persecution. We regard our personal experience and our feelings about that experience as the basis for an analysis of our common situation. We cannot rely on existing ideologies as they are all products of male supremacist culture. We question every generalization and accept none that are not confirmed by our own experience. Our chief task at present is to develop a female class consciousness through sharing experience and publicly exposing the sexist foundations of all our institutions. Consciousness raising is not quote unquote therapy, which implies the existence of individual solutions and falsely assumes that the male female relationship is purely personal, but the only method by which we can ensure that our program for liberation is based on the concrete realities of our lives. The first requirement for raising class consciousness is honesty, in private and in public, with ourselves and other women. 6. We identify with all women. We define our best interests as that of the poorest, most brutally exploited women. We repudiate all economic, racial, educational, or status privileges that divide us from other women. We are determined to recognize and eliminate any prejudices we may hold against other women. We are committed to achieving internal democracy. We will do whatever is necessary to ensure that every woman in our movement has an equal chance to participate, assume responsibility, and develop her political potential. 7. We call on all our sisters to unite with us in struggle. We call on all men to give up their male privilege and support women's liberation in the interest of our humanity and their own. In fighting for our liberation, we will always take the side of women against their oppressors. We will not ask what is quote unquote revolutionary or what is quote unquote reformist, only what is good for women. The time for individual skirmishes has passed. This time, we are going all the way. July 7th, 1969, Redstockings, New York. The Riot Grrrl Manifesto from Bikini Kill Zine 2, 1991. Because us girls crave records and books and fanzines that speak to us that we feel included in and can understand in our own ways. Because we want to make it easier for girls to see/hear each other's work so that we can share strategies and criticize, applaud each other. Because we must take over the means of production in order to create our own meaning. Because viewing our work as being connected to our girlfriends/politics/real lives is essential if we are going to figure out how we are doing impacts, reflects, perpetuates, or disrupts the status quo. Because we recognize fantasies of instant macho gun revolution as impractical lies meant to keep us simply dreaming instead of becoming our dreams, and thus seek to create revolution in our own lives every single day by envisioning and creating alternatives to the bullshit Christian capitalist way of doing things. Because we want and need to encourage and be encouraged in the face of all our own insecurities, in the face of beer gut boy rock that tells us that we can't play our instruments, in the face of quote unquote authorities who say our bands/zines/etc. are the worst in the US. And because we don't want to assimilate to someone else's, boys, standard of what is or isn't. Because we are unwilling to falter under claims that we are reactionary, quote unquote, reverse sexists, and not the true punk rock soul crusaders that we know we really are. Because we know that life is much more than physical survival and are patently aware that the punk rock you can do anything idea is crucial in the coming angry girl rock revolution which seeks to save the psychic and cultural lives of girls and women everywhere, according to their own terms, not ours. Because we are interested in creating non hierarchical ways of being and making music, friends, and scenes based on communication and understanding instead of competition and good bad categorizations. Because doing/reading/seeing/hearing cool things that validate and challenge us can help us gain and strengthen and sense of community that we need in order to figure out how bullshit like racism, able-bodyism, ageism, speciesism, classism, thinism, sexism, anti-Semitism, and heterosexism figures in our own lives. Because we see fostering and supporting girl scenes and girl artists of all kinds as integral to this process. Because we hate capitalism in all its forms and see our main goal as sharing information and staying alive instead of making profits off being cool according to traditional standards. Because we are angry at a society that tells us girl equals dumb, girl equals bad, girl equals weak. Because we are unwilling to let our real and valid anger be diffused and or turned against us via the internalization of sexism as witnessed in our girl/girl jealousism and self-defeating girl type behaviors. Because I believe with my whole heart, mind, body that girls constitute a revolutionary soul force that can and will change the world for real.